Hi everybody, my name is Stephen. I'm a tutor here on Cambly and I'm also an IT recruiter. So I'm a tutor recruiter, we can say. I wanted to talk to you all today to first give you a quick introduction about myself and tell you a little bit about me, but also to give you an insight into the 4 classes I've prepared regarding interviews, the application process for jobs, CVs, and every single aspect that a tech candidate faces when they're on a job hunt. As I say, I'm a tutor here on Cambly. I have many years' experience of teaching English, and I also have over 4 years of experience working as a recruiter, focusing mainly on tech roles and digitally focused roles. So what I normally do with my students when they book a class with me is I look at topics like interview preparation, their CV structure, and giving them some insight into the application process, the job interview process, but specifically from the mind and from the point of view of a recruiter. I've taken this knowledge and all of these lessons that I've done with my students, and I've condensed them down into 4 classes that's going to help you to be prepared for any aspect of a job interview, a job application, and everything you can expect during that process. In our first class, what we're going to look at is the CV and the initial application process for a job. So we're going to have a quick look at some good CV structures to use and how to use keywords from the job description to continuously adapt our CVs. But the most important thing we're going to look at from this lesson is the application process from the eyes of a recruiter. So I'm going to show you the different tools that recruiters use to take thousands of CVs in the application process and narrow them down to maybe 20 or 10. And I'm going to give you the tips of how to adapt your CV, how to make sure you're using the right titles, you're structuring your stack, your skills, your soft skills in the correct way to make sure that you're consistently at the top of that list. Then we're going to look at some really common misconceptions about CVs, such as how long a CV should be, what should be included on a CV, and how we need to be structuring our CVs now that technology plays such a big role in how interviewers and recruiters decide who to bring to interview stage. Also, we're going to look at the different type of people you might interview with, whether they're your future potential boss, maybe a recruiter, maybe someone with no technical knowledge whatsoever. And we're going to look at how we prepare for each of those types of interviews. And finally, in class number 1, we're going to look at some of the most common mistakes that as a recruiter I see in CVs all of the time. And these are mistakes that can take people that are completely qualified for a role out of the process immediately. In our second class, we're going to be looking at every stage of the process that isn't the interview. So as a tech candidate, unfortunately, you guys generally have the most complicated interview processes and the most lengthy interview processes with many different stages. These stages can include personality tests, psychometric tests, and most commonly tech tests as well. So what we'll look at in this class here is how we can prepare for each of these scenarios, the different resources that are available for practicing these types of tests, and we're also going to look at something really key. For a lot of these tech tests that might take place in person or kind of by Zoom, or maybe it's a completely separate one that you do at home, there's always the potential that you'll have someone that doesn't have a fantastic technical knowledge. So a really important skill that recruiters look for are people that are able to explain technical processes, technical projects that they've worked on in a really easy to understand way. So this is something we'll look at closely in this class. And we'll also look at how you can use your Cambly tutor to prepare for these stages. In class number 3, we're going to dedicate an entire class to the interview stage. so the most crucial stage in all of this process. And it's a stage that can be quite scary and quite daunting when it's done in a language that is not your native language. So I'm going to take you through some of the most common questions, ways that we can prepare and structure answers ahead of time and use those answers for a variety of different questions and just adapting it and tweaking it slightly. I'm also going to look at some trap questions and some tricky questions that come up. And I'm going to share some mistakes that candidates have made with these questions that have immediately eliminated them from that process. I'm also going to look at the subject of discussing salaries, benefits, things that can be a little bit sensitive. And I'm going to show you some cultural differences between different countries and how that topic is typically approached. And finally, we're going to look at how at the end of the interview, normally when a recruiter asks a candidate if they have any questions, we're going to look at how we can use that section to keep promoting ourselves and keep showing our positive aspects, even at the very end of the interview. In the final class, class number 4, we're going to look at the idea of building a global network. Why is this important, you might ask? Well, in English we have an expression. Looking for a job is a full-time job. But this doesn't have to be true. So in the first 3 classes, you will have learned how to prepare for each stage of the application process and how to nail each stage of the application process, hopefully. So what we want to do by building a global network is to make sure we have as many of these opportunities to apply for and to interview for as possible. So in this lesson, I'm going to be teaching you how to use LinkedIn in the most effective way to be communicating with the correct people, how to make the right connections with recruiters, recruitment agencies, to make sure that there's people around the world where you want to work that know your skill set, know what you want, and they're sending you job opportunities before they're even published, before they're made open to the public. And we're also going to look finally at the idea of being ready for many types of accents. So obviously we're working in a world that is smaller than ever. There's companies with offices in different continents. There's teams that have remote workers from different countries from all over the world. So I'm going to look at the best way to try prepare yourself for a variety of different accents and make sure you're in a good position to interview with those people. That's a summary of the 4 classes that I've prepared. As you can see, they're very comprehensive. I've put as much useful information as I possibly can into them to ensure that you have many successful interviews. Thank you very much.